Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let me welcome you at our FP&A Trends Webinar. My name is Olga Rudakova. I'm a FP&A professional and FP&A Trends Ambassador. Today, we are going to speak about leveraging data visualization, empowering strategic FP&A decisions. And this topic has attracted 400 registrations from 53 different countries. So I'm happy to see so many people here today. What we can expect in the upcoming 1 hour. First of all, we will speak about storytelling with tax data. We'll discuss why we should visualize stories, not data, to empower strategic decisions. We will uncover the third dimension of data visualization. And certainly we'll have conclusions, recommendations, and interactive Q&A session. It is time for me to introduce our panel for the webinar. Please join me here on the camera, and I will start introductions with you, Fernanda. Fernanda Naroña is Director of Finance, Process Optimization at Grainger. Fernanda is a multicultural finance and accounting executive with nearly 2 decades of experience in international companies across 3 countries and 2 continents. Fernanda, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Olga. It's a pleasure.
Our second speaker today will be Jürgen Feist. He is author, speaker, and managing partner at IBCS Institute. Jürgen is on a mission to enhance reports and dashboards by applying consistent design standards. He is a co-author of the game-changing book, Solid Outline Hatched. Jürgen, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, glad to be here. Thank you, Olga.
And our third speaker will be Liran Edelist. He's a Chief Product Officer, Enterprise Planning at Lumel Technologies. Liran has over 20 years of various experience as a founder and managing partner of a company, as a president, EVP Consulting, and a global customer success leader. Liran, we are glad to have you with us today.
Thank you, Olga, for hosting that. Thank you for FP&A Trends, and thank you for the hundreds of registrations for this webinar. So thank you for our audience.
And I would like to thank our global sponsor, Lumel, for making this event possible. Lumel brings you integrated planning, reporting, analytics, and master data management. More than that, I would like to remind you about our projects and initiatives as FP&A Trends Group. You are here. You are a part of our digital community. So you attend our webinars already. More than that, we have broad face-to-face community present in 33 cities, 19 countries, and on 4 continents. Besides that, we offer a broad spectrum of FP&A education, research, and consulting resources. What we can expect at this webinar, that is 1 hour session. You will take part in 2 interactive polls, and you can ask our panelists questions starting right now through the chat box. Presentation is already available in handout section, and you will receive the recording of the event and the presentation after the event. Before you leave, please fill in a very brief survey at the end of the session. Your feedback is very important for us. I would like to start myself with a kind of jump back in history, being exact 50 years back. That is when English mathematician, statistician Francis Anscombe came up with these 4 datasets. 4 datasets which were almost identical in their descriptive statistics, which is mean, sample variances, correlation, and so on. But these datasets had very different distribution. So they differ a lot when they're visualized. Some have outliers, some have very clear pattern. Why Anscombe did that back then? 50 years ago, not so many people visualized data as such, and he tried to convince his scientific community to start visualizing, to make invisible visible, to spot patterns, outliers, trends. Today, visualization is part of our lives. But what we want to do today, we want to move it on the next level. We want to speak about visualizing data for strategic decisions. And we will start by a practical case study on how data visualization made complex tax data understandable. Fernanda Noronha will be speaking about storytelling with tax data. Fernanda, the stage is yours.
Thanks, Olga. So I want to start a little bit with my story. So I've been a finance professional for a couple of years and working in controllership, financial statements presentation. But in 2018, I got a huge challenge to become a global tax provision leader for a huge corporation, Fortune magazine company that has a large presence in the US and in more than 160 countries. So it was something new to me to be in the tax department and be the voice of the tax department when it comes to tax data. So here are my challenges on that time. So the first thing is it's a very important line. So the corporate tax has a material impact in the financial statements. In my case, it was around 18 to 25% of the earnings before tax were represented by the income tax, the corporate tax for the company. Second thing, this is kind of common sense, and it was also for me. The tax team, they have their own complex language with their terms, with their legislations, the way that normally they communicate, the way that they read and they know information. So it's complex. And be the ambassador of communicating tax data to the rest of the finance team was challenged. To learn all this complex language and then translated it to something simple. The third thing was the company that I was working for, it was with a large presence in the US. And on that moment, everything in the tax world was changing. We had the 2017 US tax reform that bring more complexity and so much more difficult to explain the tax impacts in the financial statements. And the fourth thing, on that time, management wasn't so happy with how we presented the tax data. As you may know, the corporate tax for corporations that are in the US, they base their entries in the effective tax rate that is based on the forecast during the year, and we were having lots of volatility in this tax in the tax line. So one of my challenges was I wanted you to stop the volatility, to have better forecast. So what was the solution for me? The first thing was analyzing, being part of the finance team for a long time in other positions, not in the tax department. I invited myself, I came to the FP&A team and told them, look, most of the time in the tax department, the tax provision is based on the forecast. So I think the tax team needs to have a place in the FP&A team. We need to participate on that. And with that, with this alignment that the tax team was part of the FP&A, my team and I started to realize the communication that the FP&A use with the senior management to talk about their results. We observed their materiality levels, the type of visualizations that they use, the materiality that they use, and then what we did was to absorb and use the same kind of methodology when we communicated the text data. And the third thing was really evolve in the communication of the text data in terms of, oh, let's participate, let's do more pre-mortem meetings, let's align with the auditors. So communicate, and have the feedback from the audience, what we need to improve to make our data clear and the message easy to understand. So here I have some examples of how we changed the game on that time. So the first thing, it's very common for the tax department to present the effective tax rate bridge from what we had in quarter before and what we have now. So we used some visualization, as I show here in the left side. We used some tables to show the variances. But we realized that normally the FP&A team, they communicate variances using the waterfall charts. And normally their materiality was with just 1 decimal, not 2 decimals. So a quick change that we made was, let's communicate bridges from that explains variations from one quarter to another using the same type of chart, using the colors to communicate when something is something that we needed to pay more attention, or green colors, for example, to see when something is beneficial. My second example in this slide was regarding the way that we present tables and variances among the different quarters. So the tax team was presenting events in different quarters, putting one quarter after another and not rounding the numbers. So one small change that we made was, let's present similar to the other departments in the FP&A area. They always have the quarter information in horizontal way, not vertical as we had, and they always rounded the numbers in thousand. My final example was how we were used to communicate the drivers by different countries in terms of tax rate. So here we have the before, how we communicated the bridge from one quarter to another and the variance among the countries. So we see we have a table, we have all the information there, and then we transfer each to waterfall picture where we emphasize first where we have large variances, and everything that was smaller we categorize as immaterials in others. So with that, I pass to you, Olga.
Thank you so much, Fernando, for sharing practical example here and for sharing real visuals of how you communicated tax data to your teams. Great example here. If you have any questions to Fernando, it's a good time to ask it. So please go ahead, use our chat box. Meanwhile, let me ask you a question. I want to launch a poll and to see what is our biggest challenge in data visualization. So the question goes like that. What is your biggest challenge in data visualization? Is it creating engaging visuals or communicating clear messages through those visuals or designing insightful dashboards or just lack of skills in BI and visualization tools? So how do you see your biggest challenge? Creating engaging visuals, communicating clear messages through visuals, designing insightful dashboards, or lack of skills in BI and visualization tools. Most of you have already voted, so let me end this poll and share the results with everyone. The winner of this question is communicating clear messages through visuals. Oh, I'm pretty sure that we can help you with that in our next presentation. Another big part of the answer is 33% coming to lack of skills in BI and visualization tools. Then with 16%, we have designing insightful dashboards, and the last one, creating engaging visuals as such. Fernanda, what do you think? Are you surprised by those results?
No, honestly, I'm not surprised with the results. I think although we sometimes we fix a lot in technical skills and have the skills to create visualizations and know how to work with the different tools, Power BI, etc. I think the key is what the audience is expecting from you and how can you be clear. So I totally agree with communicating clear messages through visuals.
Great, thank you so much. Let me close this poll. Invite our fellow panelists to join us in the discussion. So what I want to discuss with you right after this polling question is our common mistakes. So what are some common mistakes finance teams make when creating data visualizations, and how can they avoid these pitfalls? Let me start this question with you, Jürgen. What do you think?
Well, actually, I think Fernanda already outlined where the problem is. It's even the term data visualization. You know, people think they should visualize data, but that's the wrong path. You should start from your audience and the questions your audience might have. So it should be better called question visualization or purpose visualization, or you know what I mean? So, and I think that is the biggest mistake. And how can you overcome those pitfalls? Well, you need domain knowledge. Don't start visualizing without domain knowledge. That's the easy thing.
Thank you, Jürgen. That's a deep answer in there. Let me move on to you, Liran. What are the most common mistakes we as finance make, and how to avoid them?
Well, I think I'm going to continue the idea Jorgen raised. Literally, we make a lot of visualizations. Sometimes those are just simple reports, sometimes those are charts, and we're submitting them to managers across organization, could be executives. And in many times, because we as FP&A professional knows what's behind the numbers, we're just presenting the numbers, assuming other knows as well. And when we are thinking about the audience, we need to think about the narrative. So what the numbers means. So the numbers should support an idea. And then if you're just saying, here is my P&L report, is not enough. But if I'm saying, here is my P&L report that shows 10% growth because we have a launch of a new product, it's a much more meaningful type of message together with the visualization. So visualization without a message, without action item, is usually not enough.
Right. Thank you so much. And thank you for connecting it to our poll. That's exactly what our audience is looking for, how to get there. Fernanda, what do you think? If you have anything to add, what are the most common mistakes we make and how to avoid them?
Yeah, I echo Jürgen and Liran. I think we need to focus on the audience. I think sometimes we just focus in what we wanna to present or what we wanna from that without thinking the audience, what the audience is looking for. So instead of focus on you, but focusing who is receiving the message, I think we could be more successful with our visualization.
Right. Thank you so much for all those answers. I think that's a great start of our session for that event and allows us to move on to the next chapter, speaking about methodology. So Jürgen Feist will be speaking about visualizing stories, not data, to empower strategic decision. Jürgen, that stage is yours.
Well, thank you, Olga. And actually, the discussion we had so far already paved the way to my presentation. This is exactly what I want to talk about. Visualize stories, not data. And Actually, this is part of the IBCS methodology. You see, I'm managing partner at IBCS Institute, and I'm frequently giving training courses on data visualization and storytelling. And in those courses, I typically have an exercise, and I would just want to tell you a story about this exercise first, and then try to prove that with a real example. So first, the story. In our exercise, we provide our students with data from a balance sheet. I know you are all financial experts, so you know exactly what the data from a balance sheet looks like. And their job is, please visualize that. Then they look at the data from the balance sheet, and they think, oh, it's in a table. Probably we should stay with a table. How could we visualize that? And then they start stacking the liabilities, and they stack the assets, and come up with this and that. But actually, it's just visualizing the data. After 15 minutes, and all of them, it's just the same mistake all of them do. After 15 minutes, when they try to visualize a balance sheet, I stop them. I say, hey guys, have you been thinking about what you want to know from a balance sheet? What is your interest in a balance sheet? Please think again, forget about data visualization. In 5 minutes, I will ask you again what you are interested in. And then they come up, oh, well, maybe we want to see something about the company's financial stability, whether the fixed assets, this is the long-term investments, whether they are financed by long-term funds. So there is a financial stability. Or we want to evaluate the profitability of the invested money from the shareholders. So some kind of return on equity, maybe even compared to alternative investments. Or we want to see who is actually owning the company. So what is the equity ratio? What is the debt? And I said, hey guys, this is right. This is what you are interested in. So why don't you start visualizing that instead of the numbers from the balance sheet? They are smiling, and they immediately start and find completely different ways of visualizing what we are doing. So this is the story from the exercise in our IBCS workshop, and I would like to prove that this is not only with our students in our courses, it's actually exactly the same if you look at some let's say data from annual reports. I have prepared an example from PepsiCo. And PepsiCo started to visualize the data in 2006, where you see, oh, okay, there are two product groups, fun for you in gray and better for you in blue. And the fun for you and the is about, well, we don't know the number, but well, the better for you is 38%, so it's 62% fun for you. In 2006, just visualize the data. And then they said, well, in 2017, it's 50% fun for you, better for you. Okay, so far they just visualized the data. And then they provide a message. They say, hey, and this is the original message from the annual report, better for you and good for you products are an increasing percentage of our total portfolio. So they have a message. They know what they want to convey. And if they know what they want to convey, the question is whether this visualization is the best way in doing that. And I think there are two main pitfalls. First of all, if they want to show that the percentage is increasing, I don't see anything increasing. I have to compare those two angles from those two pie charts to figure out that it's increasing, or I have to read the numbers, but I don't see the increase. That's problem number one. And problem number two is we only look at relative figures. So we don't know whether probably it has been decreasing in total, so that the reason why we now have a 50-50 share is because there has a decrease in fun for you products. Better for you and good for you probably are the same, and fun for you has been decreasing, and this is why we have a 50-50 share. Or do we really have an increase in revenue? And then, of course, the question is, what was the increase between those two product groups? So I hope you agree that it probably would work better if we look at this stack column. So we have 2006, we have, by the way, we checked the numbers. Those are the real numbers, 35 billion and 64 billion in total revenue. And of course, we have then the Fun for You and Better for You product groups. We could probably move the message that they have to the title, because the message, this is another rule from the famous, you see behind me, the IBCS poster. From the IBCS poster, message comes first. So well, probably this works better. We can even apply some let's say formatting rules. No need for such a big font size, and we add the numbers. So we had Fun for You 13 and 22. In 2017, it's 32 and 32, and we can show the increase. Now it comes. We show the increase. Yeah? We show the increase of 19 or 29 respectively, which is 138% or 81%. But now we have the increase absolutely. What they wanted to share is the increase in percentage. So why don't we add a normalized bar chart, column chart, just with the same figures, and now we show how the 100% split into those two product groups, and we see exactly that we have an increase of 12 percentage points, which perfectly fits to the message that there is an increasing percentage of our total portfolio. Well, we could probably even add some comments, again taken from the annual report. This is the real comment from the report. And well, link this comment, sorry, this was too fast, link that comment to the chart. Okay? I hope you agree that this gets much better across the message they wanted to get across than this initial visualization, which just only visualized the data. And when we get messages across, then this message that they show here is just a detection. They just show what they detected. Oh, we had an increase in the percentage share of this product group. But wouldn't it be, from a perspective of empowering strategic decisions, and this is actually what we are talking about, wouldn't it be better to have some explanations? Why is that? Or even better, to give a kind of suggestion, a call to action. What should happen to further increase, if we think this is a good idea, to further increase that share? Those are just examples from our IBCS rules. You see the poster also behind me. And this actually brings me to the question. I'm really curious, you are financial professionals out there. I'm really curious how you see that. If you look at your reports, whether it's more just the detection type of thing or whether you really suggest. So this brings up our next poll, Olga. Let's look at the poll and ask our audience how they see that.
I will certainly do that. First of all, I want to thank you, Jürgen, for a nice demonstration here, how we really can transform one visual into a story. If you have any questions to Jürgen, that's good time to ask them. Use our chat box and obviously to any other speaker as well. Meanwhile, indeed, let's launch our second poll for the webinar. So let me do that. Let me launch it so that you can start voting. And the question is, what percentage of management reports in your organization focus on suggestion, the key message? So let's see, is it 0%, very self-critical answer, 25%, 50%, or even 75%, and maybe 100%. So let's see, what percentage of management reports in your organization focus on a suggestion, the key message? And that obviously implies that they have a key message, but hopefully they do. And what percentage is a suggestion? 0, 25, 50, 75, or 100. It's time to end this poll and share the results with everyone. And we have absolute winner. 54% of the audience confess that it is only 25%. Another 24% of the audience believe it's 50%, so basically it's a mirrored answer. Then we have 15% voting for zero, and 6% stating that it is as much as 75%. What do you think, Jürgen? Are you surprised?
Well, actually, I'm not that much surprised. I would even have expected a more extreme result. So from my experience, I think that it's much less. So I'm absolutely, I agree. No one has 100%, and I also see the 6% for the 75. But whether really 25% of you see that half of their reports really have a call to action, I'm not sure about that. So probably there is a little wishful thinking behind that. It's better than I expected. Or if I interpret it positive, it's better than I expected.
Well, exactly. Maybe we have only advanced audience joining our webinars.
Yeah.
So let's see how it works in reality. I'll close this poll and move on to related discussion. So what I want to discuss with all our panelists is how to approach the challenge of standardizing data visualization formats across different departments while still allowing for flexibility to meet specific reporting needs. In simple words, how to balance standardization and specific reporting needs. And let me start with you, Liran, here. What do you think?
Thank you, Olga. So, I'm coming also with the technology aspect. I would say there are a couple of areas to answer, but from a technology standpoint, maybe the first piece to think about is how do we make sure that all the reports are on the same data platform? So I think one of the problems that we are seeing is that, everyone sometimes take his own piece of data using different software and so on. And I think the approach and the challenge of standardization is sometimes, okay, let's think from a data perspective, how we can put everything on the same place so data is kind of shared and then being presented in a similar way. The other piece here is that I think it's super important to keep data standardization as a core when you think about management reports, organizational reports, and then the more individualized data that not always being compared between department or business unit that always go to the appendix. So one, make sure that you're working on the same data platform, working with similar tools to allow you to create standardization. And the next piece with that data is to separate between the individual case and what can be compared.
Thank you so much. That's an elaborate answer. So let's see what other speakers have to add. Fernanda, what do you think? How can we find this balance between standardization and specific reporting needs?
Yeah, this is a challenge that I came across in my current position. I think we don't want to have less people developing analytics. We want as much as we can, and then we can solve different problems. But I truly believe that have a governance board that can evaluate if we are using the correct data sets, if we are using the standard way that management would love to see their visualization. I think it would be a good approach for it with a governance board for data visualization.
Right. That's interesting that the question of standardization touches data quality, touches data governance. So without it, actually nothing can be achieved. And only after we have that, the flexibility starts. Jürgen, what do you think? What you have to add?
Actually, you know that I'm a musician, huh? And I always compare this situation to music, where we all also have the situation that, of course, a composer wants to have the entire flexibility, but at the end, he or she uses exactly the same notation as all the others. The quarter notes and the eighth notes are exactly the same from all composers around the globe. So I think we should establish those two parts of our reporting job. The one is notation and the other one is composition or storytelling. And in storytelling, we need the entire flexibility to support decision making as good as possible. We need all the creativity and the flexibility. But in the notation part, Flexibility and creativity is harmful. We should really standardize that. And if we have a governance board checking whether everything is fine, as Fernanda suggests, that's perfect.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you for this metaphor. I think it's absolutely clear for everyone now what should be standardized and what should never be standardized. And it allows us to move to the last chapter of today's webinar, technology chapter. Liran Adalist will be speaking about the third dimension of data visualization. Liran, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Olga. I want to start with a quick story about myself. About a year ago, I know Jorgen for many years. About a year ago, I spoke with Jorgen, and Jorgen convinced me to get certified with IBCS. And during the certification progress, Jorgen made an interesting statement. If you want to see something nice, visit a museum. So in other way, that was a funny statement at the moment, but I think it was very deep, because literally the idea about data visualization is more than just being nice, or more than just presenting the data in a nice way. So that brings me to the opening before we getting into what is that third dimension. Why do we need data visualization, and what literally include in data visualization? So literally when we think about data visualization, we usually want to speak about three areas. The first one is reports. What type of reports do we have? The second one is how do we make a storytelling with those reports? And the last piece is self-service. We want to make sure that once we're creating data and we know how to visualize data, people can keep analyzing and keep getting data also by themselves. So let's drill down a little bit into those three areas. The first one is reports and data visualization. What type of reports do we have? What type of data visualization we have? So we are starting with standard reports. Everyone knows them, usually standard management report, flash reports that most organizations already have. We are going forward toward ad hoc reports that you just want to analyze a specific data, or a drill down that allows you or users to get into the details, sometimes into the transactional detail. Once we have a lot of data, we want to enlighten that and create KPI and alerts report, dashboarding in many ways. And once we analyze actual data and we have the different tools to analyze actual data, we're moving forward forecasting and planning needs of the organization. Forecasting has literally three levels. One is by nature the regular forecast, business modeling, then we can speak about AI, predictive and optimizing modeling. So those are the type of reports and data visualization we use, definitely in FP&A, but cross organization that's true as well. Another way to think about them is that we have basic reports that answer the question, what was happening? Then we can see when it was happening from a time and organization perspective. The more advanced report will answer the question about where is the impact, and then after that is how we can fix that. If we want to take those reports in the scale of the business value and the maturity of the reports, by nature, when we are thinking about how to fix, it gives a higher business value and a higher maturity. So when we think about our data visualization, about our data platform, about technology, those are the type of reports that we would expect our platform, our data platform to answer. So that was the first one. The second piece, and both Fernanda and Jorgen mentioned about storytelling, and we can have, and there are many conversations just about storytelling. What we're saying is that we want to make sure that our reporting tools can use the right visuals to tell a story. And here is an example that we're using in our tool, the IBCS concept, as a stronger data visualization than just a report that shows the variances between quarters. The other piece when we are thinking about that is to make sure that we can add the right notes and the right narratives and information in reports. So here is an example of report that is showing us the information in the title about what was happening. That relates to the comment I made earlier. We can see the notes directly on the chart. So, if you want to say that we discontinued a specific product, we can literally write that directly on the number and not just as an explanation that is disconnected with the numbers themselves. And this specific report is also a sort of a planning report that can easily show the users what is the status of planning. So that is kind of telling a story and this is not just number, we have the narrative here. So we cover the different types of reports we want to have, we cover the storytelling, and now we get into the self-service piece. Now, within the self-service piece, that's highly related to what we just saw, that about 33% of you just said we don't have enough skills. So self-service means that we can have the business users doing reports and templates and reordering and drag and drop and creating reports by themselves. What you see right now on my screen is a very quick demonstration that literally is showing that with a proper tool, we can have those reports and the storytelling and even the data entry all in the same place without necessarily doing any programming or without having many complex or technical skills. So that's about the self-service. Make sure that from a self-service perspective, you can create a report as a business user and not necessarily being dependent on heavy technology to create reports, storytelling, or even planning reports. With that being said, I think that some of you may be listening and say we have already storytelling, we have self-service, we have variety of reports, but we still have a gap in our organization. We're still getting into meetings and people keep doubting the numbers. They keep asking, why is it 5 million instead of 6? We still see that, sometimes we're spreading reports, but no one is really using those reports for decision makers. We're not always seeing that type of consistency. We see data in many places, and when someone is asking a question, we ask him to go to a different place to find the answer. And many of the threads about data are being kind of offline. So someone is sending an email and said, in that report, I got a different number. So even with a very mature level of reporting in your organization, even if you have storytelling and reports and so on, there are gaps and we need to mine those gaps. And that's exactly where the third dimension is coming when we are thinking about data visualization. And that third dimension is literally the collaboration. And what we want to say is collaboration needs to happen where data resides. We need to make sure that we collaborate around the data where we see the data. Now, this is very similar to the times when we used to go to a website to buy something and we had to pick up the phone to make an order or to go to the store. You can think about it right now, right? You get into a website, you see a product you want, you can ask the seller a question and you can buy instantly in the same place. That's exactly the idea with collaboration. If we have advanced report, if we know how to present the data correctly, then we need to create collaboration around the data and around the data visualization. It means that people can ask questions, people can ask, we can show notifications. We make sure that the platform is smart enough to support that, and it can actually support not just the Q&A, but it can support a full type of a process. So to summarize that, I want to show an example and make sure that, within that example, we are kind of collecting everything I was talking about. We are talking about reports, and you can see a report just in front of us right now. Then we have a storytelling, so that reports might have to get some sort of a notification and a question. In that specific example, a manager is getting to approve a data, and instead of approving the data, he's actually saying, well, I want this data to change. So he doesn't have to go to his email or Teams or Slack, whatever he's using. He's going into the report and refer a question or a task to one of his direct reports to change the data. And then with that self-service type of a manner, the user that was getting a task now from the manager to update the forecast or to update the plan, he can have a side-by-side comparison. He can literally see what data needs to be changed. He can simulate the data if it makes sense or not. And eventually he can approve that back and say, well, I completed the mission. So what I want to say is that the ability to kind of collaborate and make sure that our data, our report, our storytelling, self-service, and collaboration are all in the same place. This is part of what modern technology allowing us to do today. Those are the best practices, and this is where we see the most value of your investment in data platform, analytical and planning tools. With that, I would like to thank you, and I think we're going, Olga, back to you.
Thank you so much, Liran, for your presentation and for your practical demos as well. I really enjoyed watching them, and I'm pretty sure that our audience as well. Let us jump right into. Oh, we have one more demonstration here, probably.
No, I think it's just running.
Yeah, we're just running again. And we have key takeaways. Short part of our session where I would like to ask each one of our panelists of your key takeaways. So please join us here on the camera. And the question goes like that. If you want us to remember one idea, one sentence from the whole event, what would that be? Fernanda, what we should remember?
Uh, I think the visualization needs to align with the storytelling. Those needs to come together, and we need to focus on the audience always, in what they are, what is the message, what they are looking for.
Amazing. Thank you for that. Jürgen, what do you think? What is a key idea we should take with us?
Actually, I could repeat what Fernanda said, because if you look at our poster, the first two poster pictures, the first two rules are exactly about that. The first rule is about know your audience, and the second rule is know your goals. As long as you don't know your audience and what you want to get across, don't start visualization. Never start data visualization from the data side. Never.
Amazing answer. And by the way, Jürgen, do you know how many questions are coming up trying to find out how can they get this amazing poster? So we'll definitely answer that in the post-event communication. So stay tuned for that. Meanwhile, let's give space to Liran. What is the one idea you want us to take away from this event?
So I think we already agree with Fernanda and Jorgen that we need to know our audience. We need to use the right visualization tool and the right standardization, right? So I cannot repeat that. I already did, actually. So let's go to the next piece. And this is exactly that my third dimension. I think about collaboration. Let's make sure that if we know our audience, if we know how to give them the right message with the right notation, we can do that in a collaborative way, and we can avoid multiplications of same people asking different people asking same questions. We can do this collaboration with our modern tools and take that to the next level, more than just one to many, but many to many type of a conversation around data and data visualization.
Great. Thank you so much for all these ideas we can take with us. Let's move on to Q&A session. First of all, we got so many questions tonight, so we'll definitely answer some of them in writing, and we will answer some of them right now. I'll start again with you, Fernanda. This question that appeared during your presentation related to finance. So the question goes like that. In finance, it's common to use the same visuals every month. So same charts, just update them with new data. Aren't we constraining, in our view, by repeating the same analysis every time? What do you think?
I think we need to think about the feedback, seeing if we are answering the question with the same visualization or not. So ask feedback from the audience. Are we covering? And maybe we can try something new and have their feedback to see if we can change a little bit how we present. But always look to the audience and their feedback.
Right, thank you. And you see how we keep coming to the audience, to collaboration all the time. Even in the topic of data visualization, people, again, are in the center of everything. Okay, question to Jürgen, and it's addressed directly to you. It goes like that. Dear Jürgen, any suggestions on how to navigate changes on already established reports in large groups organizations? So we spoke a bit about how to create quality visual, but how to navigate changes in already existing reports and dashboards.
Okay, so that's probably a more comprehensive question and needs a more comprehensive answer. So first of all, I think you should split your entire reports into two parts. There are reports for analysis purposes. the dashboards that you need just to explore things. And then there are reports to convey messages. After you did the analysis, you found something out, you explain something, you give a suggestion, then you give this kind of message type of reports. So first of all, you should split the two of them. That's the first thing, really important. And then you probably for both of them need a kind of notation manual, which is like an extension to the corporate design manual, where they say, hey, this is the font we use, and this is the color coding we are using, and this and that. Hey, why don't we in the same document have a chapter about how our reports should look like? And so small things. What do we take as a decimal separator? How do we show the currencies? How do we show actual plan compared to plan data? And really basic stuff. This would really help getting a consistency. And again, you need that consistency in both these exploratory reports and the explanatory reports.
Thank you. Thank you. Amazing answer. You managed to answer quite complex question in very short time. Thank you for that, Jürgen. I have question that appeared during Liran's presentation, and I think it's quite non-standard question, quite interesting to me. And it appeared exactly when you spoke about collaboration. So please stay with me. Can you please comment on pros and cons of different departments in a given company exchanging data with other departments via CSV files? If you think of that, some companies don't use presentations at all. They use text files to share ideas, to make decisions. Imagine a company that's not using visualizations and exchanging data in CSV. So can you comment pros and cons of that?
Well, that's an interesting way of collaboration. I think the first piece is that you need to share data in organization. I believe that there are much better ways and tools to do it nowadays than sharing CSV data, because if you share a CSV data, a text file, someone needs to analyze this data. And that means that it's a lot of redundancy, a lot of time spent, where there are many tools in the market. If we just take Microsoft Power BI or many other solutions that you can just load the data and share it. So sending data over email, it's not secured, it's time consuming, and I don't think it's the best way to share data between departments. But I think sharing data between departments, it's very important in general. And maybe just to take the next level to that, if we are spending so much time and we see a CSV file that being sent all over the place, it means that we don't have enough time to do the analysis. Many of the customers that I have, what they really like when departments are sharing data with each other is sometimes to create a competition. It could be, by the way, in any department. It doesn't necessarily just with sales department who is selling more. It could be in other department that has literally SLA for their service or cost reduction and so on. And literally when you share the data and you analyze the data and you show the meaning of the data already between departments, and you say, hey, why would my team was selling less than others people, right? And that creates a lot of motivation. So sharing data is not just for information. Sometimes it's also to create huge motivation between different groups. So share the data, try to do it in more modern ways, and definitely try to get the insights out of that.
Amazing. Thank you for all your answers. And I have one general question that I really want to hear all of you answer. We spoke a lot about the audience and how important it is to understand your audience. So I picked out this question to ask each of you, and I'll start with you, Jürgen. So the question is, what is your favorite question to ask the target audience when developing a dashboard or report? What is your favorite question to ask the audience?
Actually, it's not that difficult. What do you want to analyze? What do you want to know? That's the only question. I just want to see what they are interested in. What's your interest? And I would then start just recording that and then try to get the data to feed the report or the dashboard. But coming from the question, what are you interested in?
Right. Liran, what do you think? What's your favorite question to ask the audience when developing dashboard or report?
So I usually splitting that into a couple of areas. The first question, because I'm doing planning over the past couple of decades, is literally what are the business drivers? So I want to understand what are the business drivers. Many times when we get into a dashboard, people thinking about the numbers and not what is driving those numbers. So number one, I want to make sure the dashboard contains all the different business drivers. The second piece is by nature the KPIs. So, what are the key performance indicators? What is literally showing us where we are on track or off track? That's somehow also related to the strategy, that not always very clear, but KPIs in most cases are there. And last but not least, some people are like to differentiate between KPIs and KRIs, like the key risk factors. So in some cases, I would also raise that question. So I would like to see the business drivers, by nature, the results in form of KPIs or more data, and last but not least, also the risks as well.
Super. Comprehensive answer, Fernanda. What you can add? What is your favorite question to ask the audience when developing dashboard or report for them?
So I think we have Jürgen say what, little more in the how, but for me, I think the most important is why. Why do you want this information? And then the person can come with explanations. What the public that will, the problem that they want to solve, the public that will see this new dashboard. So I would start with why.
Perfect. We have all the angles to this question. So basically, if you were taking notes, you have a list of questions to ask the audience and you can develop perfect dashboard or report from here. If your question has not been answered during this Q&A, stay tuned for our post-event communication. We will try to answer all your questions in writing afterwards. Meanwhile, let me invite you to our upcoming events in November. The first one is Digital EMEA FP&A Circle, happening on November 13th, and it will be on the topic FP&A in the age of AI, building expertise for a data-driven future. And another one, FP&A Trends Webinar in the same format we are having today, will happen on November 19th. And we will look inside the crystal ball to see top 5 trends shaping FP&A in 2025 and beyond. So please join us on these events. I would like to thank our global sponsor, Lumel, for making this event possible. And I would like to invite all of you to connect with us, with FP&A Trends Global Community. You can choose any of those channels to connect with us, to stay in touch between the webinars. And I would like to thank all of you for joining our live event. I would like to thank our panelists for being with us, for sharing your practical examples, for sharing your wisdom with us. Don't leave just yet. Please fill in a short survey to help us improve those events for you. Enjoy the rest of the day and see you at the next event. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.